Sex Education is a British teen comedy drama streaming television series created by Laurie Nunn for Netflix featuring an ensemble cast including Asa Butterfield and Gillian Anderson. The costumes are designed by Rosa Dias. According to her website, she has worked as a costume designer for 25 years in film, television, and commercials. I wanted to do this video because even though I have a love for science fiction, fantasy, and historical costumes, I occasionally like to do reviews of contemporary costume design, especially when it is this well done. And this is such a fresh take on the angst-ridden, coming-of-age drama, especially when Netflix is serving up such drivel as He's All That. Costumes are not just fashions worn by characters, but like the other elements of the production, like the cast, script, cinematography, sound, music, and production design, can convey a setting or time period, set a mood, tell us about the character's personality, including their background, social economic status, quirks, and idiosyncrasies. Sex Education does all of this exceptionally well. It also explores universal themes of that awkward stage between our teens and into adulthood that we can all relate to. Before we proceed, there are some spoilers for 3 seasons of Sex Education. You might have noticed, or maybe you haven't, that there is something just slightly off about the fictional setting of Moordale Secondary School, set in the bucolic town of Moordale. That's because it comes from the mind of the show's creator, Laurie Nunn, and director and executive producer Ben Taylor, who created a U.S.-British hybrid world inspired by their love of 80s John Hughes movies. American filmmaker John Hughes is best known for a particular style of 80s teen comedies, like one of my personal favorites, 16 Candles, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink, and The Breakfast Club. Hughes helped launch the careers of many of the stars of his movies like Macaulay Culkin, Matthew Broderick, and Molly Ringwald, featured soundtracks of popular hits of the day, and set fashion trends with his characters' bold fashion choices. I was personally inspired by Molly Ringwald's Pretty in Pink upcycled prom dress. The showrunners were also influenced by the late 90s hits 10 Things I Hate About You and Freaks and Geeks. Now, to the English, this setting isn't quite British, and to the American audience, or a Canadian like me, it's not quite that either. It's really its own thing, an alternative reality in a way. Some of the decor in Sex Education is mid-century modern. The clothes look retro with their bold colors and mismatched patterns, and have an American aesthetic that juxtaposes the British setting. At times, I felt that I had traveled back to the 1980s to visit my own high school. Even some of the themes in the show felt positively retro. At my own Catholic school in the 80s, where we had to wear uniforms, boys and girls weren't forced into gendered outfits. We were given an option, but the thing that was absolutely accurate was the separate sex ed classes, where we were forced to view horrifying videos. I'll wax nostalgic a little bit through this video. I hope you don't mind. I recently completed watching season 3. Since the first season, each character had a well-defined look that has evolved over the 3 years at Moordale. In season 3, when they are challenged by the antagonist and forced to wear a uniform, a twisted take on a Hogwarts school ensemble with super wide double-notched lapels, a brave choice indeed from the costume designer. Many in the UK were quick to point out that most English primary and secondary schools require pupils to wear uniforms. Students in Catholic schools, private schools, and some public schools do indeed wear uniforms in the US and Canada, but it is less commonplace in the public school system. As well, I also understand that Jackson's Letterman jacket also is more of a typically American thing. The characters' identities are so closely aligned with how they dress, what jewelry and makeup they wear, and how they style their hair. There are many universal themes tied to a form of self-expression, especially when you are a young person and you're trying to find your own identity. When the new principal, Hope, introduces a set of measures meant to stamp out individuality, each character responds differently. Some, like Hal, fought back. Others, like Maeve, reluctantly complied. The measures trickled in a little at a time, a gendered uniform here, a nose ring removal request there. It's sold as being for the good of the students. It will help them concentrate on their education. It will prepare them for the real world, blah, blah, blah. There is this idea in the adult community that young people will need to work in the real world eventually. So high school is a good time to start dressing professionally. So maybe I'm a rebel, but I always thought that that was BS. When it looked as though the school was headed toward a dictatorship, it certainly reminded me of the ABC after-school special, The Wave. I had to chuckle when I saw one of the outfits that Hope was wearing that looked like a Mao suit. In 1949, such suits came to be worn widely by male citizens and government leaders in China as a symbol of proletarian unity and an Eastern counterpart to the Western business suit. While Hope comes off as hip and cool at the beginning, she tightens her grip to control the students at Moordale. But as her personal life begins to unravel, her costumes reflect that. Costume designer Dias said, "I kind of wanted to use fabrics that were quite stiff, quite stern, quite heavily weighted fabrics because that also indicated a bit of stiffness, the oppression that she has, the kind of stuff missing in her personality. And so I went for denim and cotton, heavy drill cotton, and many things that were quite strong and constructive fabric." But it wasn't just the principle that challenged each character's look. In trying to get Otis to fit in with her Untouchables clique, Ruby Matthews attempted a series of makeovers with his outfits right out of the 1970s, perhaps raided from his grandfather's closet. They even give him this pompadour style at one point and parade him around school like a pet who holds her purse. It's like the opposite of a chihuahua in a handbag, the ultimate in accessories for the vain at heart. Ruby was embarrassed by his clothing, especially by a light down jacket that featured 3 bold stripes that saw him through 3 seasons of high school. But after pandering to Ruby after a while, he said that he wasn't comfortable in those clothes and preferred his ringer tees and corduroy pants. And I love how they fleshed out Ruby more this season. She is trying to control everyone around her because her home situation is beyond her control. Cal is a non-binary character introduced in Season 3. Dias said of Cal's costume, "I was kind of using a sort of old-school skating kind of looks mixed with a kind of more contemporary kind of skateboarding look as well. And then I wanted to use color. I wanted a bit of color still in there, but yet not too much because Cal is definitely confident, but not like Eric or anything like that." Maeve, on the other hand, while not a popular girl at school, without the funds to buy a lot of clothes, still finds a way to make a fashion statement. Because she is intelligent, anti-establishment, and rebellious. According to Dias, Maeve is the character most likely to originate in a John Hughes movie. She says, "With Maeve, there's a lot of invoking famous people in a lot of the 90s movies and the John Hughes movies in the 80s, because that was very much in the series as well. So we wanted to have a bit of an homage to John Hughes." One thing that wasn't explained was how Maeve was able to afford her uniform when she couldn't even pay for a day trip to France. I mean, it seems unlikely that the school under Hope would have footed the bill. I drool over some of Jean's boho chic costumes. They often look vintage, but at the same time, very contemporary and timeless. And I love that she doesn't shy away from color. If I had one small quibble, and I say this with all due respect to Gillian Anderson, who is a beautiful woman, but her platinum blonde hair looks overly processed. But I like the cut. Now, Eric dresses in brightly hued florals, clashing plaids, and animal prints, but somehow it looks cohesive when it's all brought together. Dias said in an interview with Off Color, "With Eric, I just wanted to create a person who had such confidence in himself. Once you've gone through everything that he went through, I wanted him to be so confident that he would have the ability to put clashing patterns together that would still work." While Eric was dressing in the way that he loved, each season becoming more and more comfortable with his bold fashion and makeup choices, he felt challenged on his trip to Nigeria to attend a wedding. Out of fear for his safety, Eric's mother attempted to downplay his flamboyancy because same-sex sexual activity is illegal in the country. Actor Chudi Gatwa, who plays Eric, said in an interview with Variety that, I think quite often when you see African cultures represented in mainstream culture, it gets portrayed under an umbrella of Africa, and it's an African wedding. So let's just throw lots of green, orange, and red colors there, and that will show that we are African. No, this is a Nigerian wedding, and we have to make it very specific to that. The aso-ebe is a uniform dress that is traditionally worn in Nigeria and other African cultures during ceremonies and festive periods. In Nigerian culture, the bride and groom families dress in an attire called aso-ebe, which stem from two Yoruba words, aso meaning cloth and ebe, which means family. Back safely home, Eric is ready to truly embrace his newfound self. As he says during his breakup scene with Adam, "I just feel like I'm ready to fly. You're just learning to walk." Netflix announced on September 25th, 2021, that we will be getting a 4th season of Sex Education. What did you think of the costume design in Sex Education? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoy this kind of content and want to hear more costume analysis, consider subscribing. Thank you for spending time with me. I'll see you in the next video.